Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Cycle 5858. I am Amish Cycle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
On Disney Plus every night. Tonight, the breaking news right now involving the U.S. and Iran. President Trump's ceasefire already being tested tonight. Iran now saying the Strait of Hormuz is not open, and what Iran is now demanding amid sprawling attacks in Lebanon, and what Vice President J.D. Vance is calling a misunderstanding. We'll go live to Mary Bruce at the White House. Also breaking the chilling turn in court involving a serial killer. The husband and father who worked as an architect in New York City pleading guilty today. How many women did he kill? The moment he spoke in court, and you will hear from the woman who he was married to for 27 years. Just in tonight, we're following an emergency playing out in Philadelphia. A deadly parking garage collapsed. The search for possible victims trapped. The new images tonight, the massive warehouse fire, and we have now learned police are investigating this video. Does it show an employee starting a fire? Also tonight, the husband who reported his wife missing in the Bahamas telling authorities she fell overboard and was swept away. Now breaking his silence, what he's now saying, as her daughter calls for an investigation. The harrowing 911 calls the father who drowned rescuing two of his children in a rip current. Tonight we now hear his wife calling for help. Bystanders trying to revive her husband. The major news tonight in the Matthew Perry case, the so-called ketamine queen sentenced for illegally selling the drugs, killing the Friends star. The judge's decision right here. Tonight, the Tiger Woods crash, and what prosecutors now say they will seek a subpoena for. And America Strong tonight, the young children taking over the Masters. And look at this, the young daughter and her 20-foot putt. How this ends right here. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News. Africa News. The news.
As Djibouti prepares to choose its president on Friday, incumbent leader Ismail Omar Guelleh is largely expected to win the election. At 78 years old, Guelleh is one of Africa's longest-serving leaders and has ruled the country of around 1 million people with an iron fist since 1999. Just over 256 people are being called to the polls on Friday for an election described as a masquerade by the head of the Djibouti League of Human Rights. Guelleh last won the re-election in 2021 with 97% of the vote in a ballot largely boycotted by the opposition. He is now running for a sixth term thanks to constitutional amendments that removed both term and age limits. With the opposition divided and largely silenced, the leader faces a single, low-profile opponent. Guelleh casts himself as Djibouti's guarantor of stability in the volatile region. The country has a unique location between Africa and the Arabian Peninsula and has drawn foreign military powers. France, China, Japan and Italy all have troops in Djibouti. The country is also home to the only permanent US military base in Africa, with some 4,000 troops supporting anti-terrorist operations on the continent. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the relocation process for army members released by the AFC M23 rebel group appears to be at a standstill. On March 8th, the Rwanda-backed AFC M23 announced the liberation of 5,000 soldiers from the armed forces of the DRC, previously captured by the group. At the time, the movement spokesperson said the soldiers had been handed over to the International Committee of the Red Cross. The ICRC was then supposed to supervise their transfer to Kinshasa, but a month has come by and the relocation has yet to happen. According to French radio RFI, the AFC M23 has increased pressure on the Congolese government, even accusing Kinshasa of refusing to take these soldiers back. On the other hand, government sources told RFI that negotiations were ongoing and underlined logistical and financial concerns. The Central African Republic has freed a Belgian-Portuguese NGO worker who was serving a prison sentence for undermining state security, according to the Portuguese Foreign Ministry. Joseph Figueira Martin was working for the American NGO Family Health International 360 when he was arrested in the Central African Republic in May 2024. Authorities accused him of seeking help from an armed group to capture notorious Ugandan warlord Joseph Kony. Figueira was initially charged with conspiracy and espionage over his contacts with rebel fighters in the eastern region of Congo. In November, he was eventually sentenced to 10 years of hard labor for undermining state security. His lawyer had denounced an unfair trial. Portuguese authorities said Figueira had left the Central African Republic on Tuesday and was expected in Lisbon after over 22 months of detention. According to Portugal's foreign minister, Figueira's liberation was the result of long-term diplomatic efforts involving both the Portuguese and Belgian governments as well as the European Union.
US President Donald Trump has stepped back from his threat to launch major strikes on Iran. Less than 2 hours before a deadline he said could determine whether a whole civilization will die on Tuesday night. Trump said he's suspending planned attacks on Iranian civilian infrastructure for 2 weeks on condition that Tehran accepts a ceasefire and fully reopens the Strait of Hormuz, a key route for global oil shipments. He also said Iran is Asia First.
A good Thursday morning, I'm Julie Yu. The headlines this hour. A ceasefire in the Middle East threatened to unravel. Israel intensifies its bombing campaign in Lebanon, killing more than 250 people overnight. President Donald Trump telling U.S. media that Lebanon is, quote, a separate skirmish and not part of the agreements the U.S. has with Iran. But Tehran closing the Strait of Hormuz again in response and also threatening to withdraw from peace talks.
I'm Arnold Gay, the White House saying the U.S. will hold direct negotiations with Iran even as fighting continues. Vice President J.D. Vance leading an American delegation to Islamabad. Talks to take place Saturday morning local time.
I encourage the Iranians to come to the table seriously. We've seen some signs that they're going to do that. We've seen some signs of bravado. Fundamentally, we're in a good spot.
I'm Elizabeth New. Crude oil prices volatile amid what observers see as a fragile ceasefire agreement, while shares in Asia are trading lower as investors assess latest developments around the Iran war. Tehran is casting the new strikes in Lebanon as a violation of the Truce Pact. Also ahead.
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested, and they failed.
NATO Chief Mark Rutte in Washington, once again facing Mr. Trump's criticism for not supporting his war on Iran. The first.
The fragility of the U.S. ceasefire with Iran is being tested as Israel expands strikes on Lebanon and uncertainty hangs over the Strait of Hormuz.
Iran warns it would be unreasonable to proceed with.
This is Sky News, the headlines. Donald Trump hits out at NATO after a meeting with its Secretary General at the White House. 100 targets in 10 minutes. Israel launched a massive wave of strikes on Lebanon, killing more than 250 and injuring hundreds more. Israel's Prime Minister insists the war is not over despite the ceasefire. In the US, Donald Trump claims a complete victory, a sentiment echoed by his defense secretary.
President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it.
To Keir Starmer, Trump the Gulf. US Trump criticized the economy rejection until Trump there again. Today's Friday,
Israeli attacks on Lebanon were part of the ceasefire.
ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states. Now, that said,
regard that there will be a spontaneous do not read U.S. that does not apply to Lebanon. NATO chief Mark Rutte has held talks with Donald Trump at the White House. A spokesman for the alliance said the two had a frank discussion about security issues. On Wednesday, the Wall Street Journal reported that Trump was considering a plan to punish NATO allies he considered unhelpful to the U.S. and Israel during the Iran war.
Why don't hummingbirds get drunk? What causes gravitational waves to squeeze our bodies? How much water do we need per day? Do plants scream for...
On this Wednesday night, the stability of the Middle East ceasefire already in doubt as Israel keeps up intense attacks on Lebanon.
they're lying about the nature of the ceasefire.
And the terms of the agreement are in dispute. Another defection from the Conservatives to the Liberals.
I couldn't be happier.
Why this Ontario MP is crossing the floor for past controversies and where this leaves both parties. Sentence, the so-called ketamine queen's punishment for Matthew Perry's overdose death. Plus, here we snow again.
I would say we're at about third, maybe fourth winter.
The Canadians demanding spring. Get with the program already.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Is this the sound of a ceasefire? Israel has pounded Lebanon with the most intense attack since the U.S. and Israel started this war in late February. Israel's finger remains on the trigger, says the country's prime minister, who claims the ceasefire announced by the U.S. president yesterday did not include Lebanon. At least 182 people were...
Fox News alert, the president says it's a big day for world peace after the Iranians cried uncle. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said they were on their knees.
President Trump had the power to cripple Iran's entire economy in minutes. But he chose mercy. He spared those targets because Iran accepted the ceasefire under overwhelming pressure. The new Iranian regime understood that a deal was far better than the fate that awaited them.
24 hours in, and real money likes what it sees. The Dow closed up 1,300 points. It's the best day in a year. Oil collapsed 12%, back into the 90s. The Pentagon says we crushed them.
On February 28th, the President of the United States ordered the Joint Force to execute Operation Epic Fury with the direction to accomplish three distinct military objectives: destroy Iran's ballistic missile and drone capabilities, destroy the Iranian Navy, and destroy their defense industrial base to ensure that Iran cannot reconstitute the ability to project power outside their borders. Over the course of 38 days of major combat operation, the Joint Force achieved the military objectives as defined by the President.
Their drone, missile, and naval production plants wiped out. We struck 80% of Iran's air defense systems, almost 100% of their navy's gone, and we hit them in their Persian purses. Their steel plants and petrochemical factories are rubble. But are we actually finished? That's up to Iran. For now, we're keeping an eye on it.
We'll be hanging around. We're not going anywhere. We're going to make sure Iran complies with this ceasefire, and then ultimately comes to the table and makes a deal. So we'll stay put, stay ready, stay vigilant, as the chairman laid out. Our troops are prepared to defend, prepared to go on offense, prepared to restart at a moment's notice with whatever target package would be needed in order to ensure that Iran complies.
For the mullahs, this is an opportunity. Show the world that you're not a terrorist. Here's how it all went down. Axios says the gay Ayatollah woke up from his coma, heard about Bridge Power Plant Day, and told his men to do a deal. Then cardboard Ayatollah got a call from China. Beijing told him to hurry up. Your economy can't last much longer.
J.D. Vance, Witkoff, and Kushner are headed to Pakistan this weekend for the first round of peace talks. And we know who we're dealing with.
We want Iran to not be able to make a nuclear weapon. We want the nuclear fuel, which is something the president has made very clear. And there's, again,
Tonight's ceasefire chaos and confusion. New fighting today putting the fragile ceasefire plan in jeopardy as Vice President J.D. Vance prepares to lead the peace talks. Israel launching major strikes targeting Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hundreds killed. Rescuers searching for people in the rubble. Iran says that violates the ceasefire. Are they now closing off the Strait of Hormuz? Our Keir Simmons in Saudi Arabia, where missiles are still raining down. And new details on who else will lead the peace negotiations. Plus, the stock market surging and oil prices plunging over the ceasefire plan. When will gas prices come down? The search intensifying for the mother who went overboard while out boating with her husband in the Bahamas. You'll hear the voicemail he left for his stepdaughter after she vanished. The stunning courtroom confession from the Gilgo Beach killer, Rex Heuermann, admitting to 8 murders, including one victim he was never charged with. What he said in court. Massive warehouse inferno, and the video that appears to show an employee setting it on fire as he complained about low pay. Mid-air scare, the plane door busting open shortly after takeoff. Passengers fearing they'd be sucked out. What happened next? Terrifying video capturing the moment a school bus filled with children is clipped by a train. Why that bus driver is now facing charges. Ketamine queen sentencing, the woman who sold the fatal dose of drugs to beloved actor Matthew Perry, facing more than a decade behind bars. New video of a twister touching down just north of Miami, sending this playset flying and destroying the backyard. And there's good news tonight. The plane full of people helping this 2-year-old celebrate a major medical milestone. The moving messages they wrote him. Nightly News starts right now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Young.
Good to be with you. I'm Tony DeCopo. The breaking news right now. Fire attacks in the Middle East. Truce to Irania. New video appears to show a warehouse worker setting fire to pallets of toilet paper. His arrest on felony charges of arson. One head while lighting the blaze. And confessions of killer twist executed amidst steal women. What he revealed today about hiding their bodies and reacting tonight from
When the year keep going. Your love
Always that American woman missing in the Bahamas. Her husband breaking his silence days after he says she fell overboard. And here they come, Artemis 2 speeding toward that Friday return to Earth. The new pictures tonight and the dangerous moments still ahead. Finally, the good stuff tonight. Maybe the kids are going to be all right after all. CBS News headquarters in New York. This is the CBS Evening News with Tony DeCopo.
The Iran ceasefire announcement, and the truce is already hanging by a thread. Iran has accused Israel of repeatedly violating the agreement and closed the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon. Pakistan has emerged as the key mediator between the US and Iran, brokering the ceasefire announced on Wednesday. The country, which shares a border with Iran and has good relations with both the US and Iran, is due to host a first round of peace talks in Islamabad.
Thank you for watching. I'm Shakil 5858. I hope you will come again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.